If your marketing strategy consists of 1 week showing up at a networking event, the next week posting on Instagram, and the next week absolutely nothing, odds are you're going to fail. You're listening to Success Unleashed, where we show contractors how to grow a 7 or 8 figure business. My name is Garrett Bake, and I've helped over 1,000 contractors and trade business owners just like you put the people, processes, and plan in place to create ultimate freedom. Welcome to the show. If your marketing strategy consists of 1 week showing up at a networking event, the next week posting on Instagram, and the next week absolutely nothing, odds are you're going to fail. One of the conversations that I end up having regularly with contractors that either come into the office or we have conversations online has to do with marketing. Now, here's a couple things that you need to understand about marketing, okay? The first thing and most important is it's not the responsibility of the company that you may hire or the flyers that you may send out or the people that you send to go to networking events. At the end of the day, marketing is your responsibility. And I wanted to lead with that because I want you to understand at the end of the day, we all want our businesses to grow. I'm no different than you. In fact, prior to recording this conversation, we were talking about marketing. And what I've realized is the more responsibility I put on other people outside of what I control, the worse the results are. So I want to spend some time today sharing with you some insights, some things that I've learned, right? And some strategies that I've deployed and we've had clients deploy that have helped them grow their contracting business. And it all centers around marketing. Now, here's the best part, okay? If you truly understand what marketing is, then you understand it is only one of two things. It's getting people's attention and it's keeping people's attention. That's it, right? When I say the word marketing, a lot of people interpret that as advertising. In other words, I got to buy an ad in a newspaper, or I got to put yard signs up, or I got to slap a magnet on the side of the truck, or I got to wrap the truck, or I got to put Facebook ads or SEO or Google or whatever the thing is, right? And we think that that's marketing. No. Advertising is a form of marketing, right? And it's nothing more than getting and keeping people's attention. Now, why do I say getting and keeping? Because the truth is, not everybody's ready to buy right now. But you want to be the person that they think about when they are ready to buy. So how do we do this? Okay. The first thing and most important, what you have to understand is marketing is a long-term game. It's not you're going to go spend $1,000 and then you're going to get 100 new leads. That's not the way it works. Now, does that happen every now and then? Sure, it does. But that's not the way it normally works, right? It's about consistency. So you got to get your name out. You got to get the brand out. You got to get people to know, like, and trust you so that when they are ready to buy, you're the guy they think about. Now, I'll tell you this. You're probably frustrated right now because you're like, well, my page isn't ranking. Well, no, it's not ranking because the big dogs, right, the guys that are spending tens of thousands of dollars a month or more on advertising are always going to take priority, right? But does that mean that you can't have success? No, it doesn't. Okay. I want to share with you a couple of marketing strategies that you can use today that won't cost you a dime other than your time, energy, and effort. Fair? Okay. So let's look at this. Big picture. You got to look at a pipeline, right? And what does a pipeline do? It takes things from one place to another. Okay. Specifically, what we're talking about is your lead pipeline, meaning how am I getting people to raise their hand and say, I'm interested, and ultimately filtering them down to becoming a client, right? So how do we keep the pipeline full instead of, I like to call it a roller coaster, feast, famine. Nobody likes the feast, famine, okay? What ends up happening with most contractors is they hustle to get a client or two, and then they get super busy doing the work, so they stop marketing, and so they get the work done and they're super excited and they get paid, and then they turn around and go, well, my pipeline's empty. I got nobody else. Why? Because they stopped marketing. So in order for you to not just gain momentum, but maintain momentum, you have to understand that your job is to consistently market. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, how? Or even worse, you're saying, well, I've already tried that. Let's go through this and see if you've really done the things that you need to do. And I'll tell you this, until you do something for 18 months, you can't tell me whether it works or not. Yeah, you heard that right. 18 months. So if you're going to advertise on Facebook, 2 months means absolutely nothing. You're competing with too many people and there's too much noise. If you're going to go to a networking group, right, your local home builders association, a BNI, or some other networking group, 5 months, you might get a couple leads, but it's not enough, right? Every person that I've talked to or every conversation that I've been involved in, 12 to 18 months before you start seeing consistent results. But it's because you consistently show up, right? So I'll give you 2 very simple, perfect examples, okay? Number 1, our commercial construction management company. The way this thing started was nothing more than networking. It was me getting out there, and as I like to call it, shaking hands and kissing babies, right? It was getting to meet with builders, with developers, people that had projects going, investors, right, that were thinking about different things, and just having conversations with them, just getting to know them, handing them up for lunch or for coffee, going out golfing. Hell, we did an axe throwing night as well. Like, we just did fun stuff that I'd enjoy doing and that they'd enjoy doing as well, right? And during the course of that time together, during the course of those conversations, guess what happened? Opportunities come up, ideas come up, and you start to flesh things out and you start to see where things can go. So about 18 months in with this particular developer and builder that I've been working with, we were on the golf course. In fact, it's kind of funny. We were stopped at a golf tournament because it gets a little backed up. And there's this group of turkeys walking across the fairway. I mean, it was just the funniest thing, right? I won't tell you whether or not that we chose to chase the turkeys, but hey, anyway, there's turkeys there, right? So we're sitting there talking and I bring up his projects. I'm like, hey, what do you got going on right now? And he's talking about these different projects, anywhere from $2 to $20 million projects, right? And I was like, well, you sound a little frustrated about a couple of these projects. And he said, yeah, I am. He goes, because the problem that I have is some of these projects are meant for the big dogs and some of these projects are meant for the little guys. He said, but I have this group of projects that are anywhere from $500,000 to $2.5 million projects. He goes, they're too big for the little guys, but they're too small for the big guys. And so I really struggle to get trades, people that I can use for these projects. And I was like, all right, fair enough. He was like, well, would you be interested in helping me with that? And I was like, you know what? I never thought about that. And at that point I hadn't. But from that conversation, we started our commercial construction management company. And to date, we've landed about $250,000 worth of work. I have no ads. In fact, if you look at our website, it's a very simple, static website. No ads, right? No t-shirts, no business cards. I've got nothing more than relationships. And so what happens is we now manage 5 different trades, right? Concrete, framing, drywall, painting, and roofing. That's it. 5 trades. That's what we can handle right now. Those are my relationships that I already have. And so we get to bid on these projects. We have a budget, okay? And then we come to an agreement with numbers and we make it work for every party involved. And we manage those subs. We're like a mini GC basically, right? We work underneath the GC, a mini GC. But what I identified was a problem that somebody was dealing with and came up with a solution that made sense for them. And in the end, we get paid, right? Ultimately, that's marketing at its very core, right? I don't care if you're a plumber, an electrician, a roofer, you're a drywall guy, you're a painter, you're a remodeler or a builder. I don't care. And frankly, neither does anybody else. Your job is to get them to care. Your job is to get them to pay attention to you, who you are and what you do, right? And until you can do that, people are just going to keep scrolling through. People aren't looking for a roofer. They're looking for someone to solve a roofing problem that they have, right? And what do they not want? Well, they may not want to get ripped off, right? They may want to look at alternatives other than, well, you got to replace the whole roof, right? They might want to look at these things. Again, an example, and this is literally from today. We have a client and they're an excavation company. Well, their daughter had a leak in their roof, right? We had a couple storms roll through, had a leak in their roof. And so the daughter had called a couple of different roofing companies to come out and both had said, you need to replace your roof. It's going to be tens of thousands of dollars. And so the daughter is telling her mom like, hey, I can't figure this thing out. You know, we don't have the money to replace, blah, 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 whatever. Well, she'd already built a relationship. It happened through our community, but she built a relationship with a roofer, right? And this particular roofer said, no problem, I'll come out. So he goes out and he says, hey, look, you don't need to replace your roof. You just need to do this repair. That's it, right? But because they built the relationship and because they knew he was somebody that they could trust and they called him, boom, job landed. That's simple, okay? So understand that is what marketing is, okay? But here's the other part of this. It has to be consistent work. Consistent work. Tim Brown, who owns RGS Exteriors, he does about $16 million a year. He's one of the mentors in our group, right? So Tim and I talk regularly, like every week, multiple times. We talk regularly. And we were talking about the local Home Builders Association. We're both a part of it, right? He's on the board. He's a past president. And I'm part of the board as well. So we're talking about it. And in conversation, one of these things came up. And it was this idea that, listen, when I started my exterior company, I was just doing gutters. But I was a part of the Home Builders Association for 18 months before I ever got a job from there. 18 months. And during that time, he was showing up to meetings. He was volunteering at events. He was showing up to events, right? He was actively involved in the community. But he said, that is what allowed my business to take off, was me investing in the relationships that I knew eventually would bring the work. So for you, number one and most important is figuring out what you do and who you do it for, okay? For sake of conversation, go look at past episodes. We talk about this. But you're not a roofer for everyone. You do new roofs, you do re-roofs, right? You either work with a consumer or you work with a builder or developer, you work with a remodeler. Like, get super specific on who you want to work with. Then the next question, where are they at? Answer that one. And then number three, who has access to them? And then your job is to be consistent with building relationships inside of those opportunities and those communities. That's it. Like, I couldn't make marketing any more simple for you. So if you're struggling with marketing right now, I guarantee you it's one of two things. Number one, you're inconsistent about it, which is probably the reason, right? And or number two, you're not really clear on who you're marketing to or how you're going to market to them. But if you can answer both of those questions, I guarantee, give it 90 days. I know I said 18 months, but give it 90 days of consistency and you're going to see things change inside of your contracting business. All right, you know what time it is. It's time for you to take this information and get after it. 3, 2, 1, off you go. If you're serious about growing your contracting business, and let's be real, if you made it to the end of this episode, you are. We've got a free community built just for you. Inside, you'll get access to exclusive courses, live coaching calls, and in-person events that will give you the tools to scale with confidence. Click the link below to join us, and I'll see you on the inside.